When I show up to my word for myself, it increases my self-love. So what does that look like? When I say I'm going to write like whatever, 10 minutes every single morning because I have a book that I want to put out in the world. When I show up every day in that 10 minutes, that's discipline. Because trust me, there are times when you don't want to do it. I increase my self-love. I'm showing up for me and my commitment and my impeccable word to myself. If I said I'm going to work out today, I'm going to work out today. I'm going to be as honest to myself as I am to somebody else. And that isn't being impeccable. To me, that's the ultimate impeccable of the word. And that translates with time into deeper, more profound love for yourself, because you're choosing you. You're choosing your goals. You're choosing to show up even when you don't want to show up for yourself.
Welcome my guest, Danette May. Danette has been driven by a powerful calling to serve Mother Earth and her people. She inspires people around the world to step up into their true and full expression of themselves and to live to their fullest potential. Her teaching and programs have transformed the lives of millions of people, allowing them to live their happiest and healthiest lives. Co-founder and CCO of Mindfulness Health, LLC, Danette has built 2 thriving 8-figure businesses in Earth Echo Foods and FitRise. Danette published her first bestseller with Hay House in 2018, and The Rise has inspired thousands of people to transform their lives. In addition to her signature programs and products and best-selling books, Danette shares her wisdom and simple life hacks through national media interviews, keynote speeches, and mastermind sessions, and a regular podcast guest, and has been featured in several documentary films alongside Tony Robbins, Dalai Lama, Richard Branson, and so much more. Now to welcome my new friend and dear soul, Danette May. Well, Danette May, I am, like I said, so honored to share this space with you. This has been a long time anticipated interview, so welcome on the podcast.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Well, I know you wouldn't be here today if you didn't go through a lot of the things you have been through, but I want, if you could summarize, because I know you do a lot of things, summarize where you are today, and then where did you basically come from? Like, what was the position you were in before and how it led you into where you got today? And I know that you share this story a lot, but I think it will really get people to appreciate what you share today and really take in the value you share.
Yeah, I love how you frame this, because I think a lot of times we're thinking about where we came from first versus where we're at today. And I'm really unapologetic of where I'm at today because I worked really hard to get here. And then I'll share like why I'm unapologetic of where I am today. So today, I'm sitting with 3 businesses that are doing 8 figures. And I say that unapologetically because you'll hear in a minute why, but these businesses are really way within my soul contract. I feel they're definitely things I would be doing whether I got paid or not. One being a superfood company called Earth Echo, where I feel I'm really called to bring these ancient forms of healing and foods to our modern busy world. And that's what the Earth Echo company is. And then we have our FitRise community, which was where everything started, which was around all the programs of where taking my mess and making my message. So it was like all around healing foods, movement, and mindset. And so there's all these different programs. There's been millions of people that have gone through these programs around the globe. And that's been where I started. And then it moved to the superfood company. And then we actually branched off the Danette May brand on its own because I'm getting book deals through Hay House Publishing and doing speaking, keynote speaking at different events, and have more books in the future. So one's coming out this year, and I have these manifesting programs that I wanted to create that are really more in this metaphysical space, but really the truth of what things I used to get from where I was to where I am today. So I'm feeling super called to be sharing these metaphysical mindset practices that I know are going to completely change people's lives, from their health to their relationships, to their finances, to them showing up in their soul's purpose. So that's where I'm at today. And I'm really, really excited about it. And, I got here because of my refiner's fire and because of my downfalls. And like I said, I made my mess my message. And I want to speak to this because if whoever's listening, if you're in chaos, congratulations. Because out of chaos comes equal or greater good. Napoleon Hill said this, and I held on to that nugget when I was in the washing machine of chaos in my life. And I was going through a terrible divorce. I had lost my son at childbirth. And I went through this deep depression, which I had never been in depression before. I wasn't used to depression. And I couldn't, when I say depression, it was a depression that where I couldn't even go out to buy a loaf of bread for 3 months. I would tell my daughter what a curb was when she was little so that she wouldn't go past the curb on the street out front of her house because she wanted to go outside and it wouldn't go. I really was in that space. And then also I went through this terrible divorce, ended up with $47 to my name, which I found through couches and drawers. And I was just in this massive headspace of like, am I going to amount to anything? What have I done? I'm a terrible mom. I'm a financial ruin. I had this negativity. I was by myself, this single mom. I had sold all my furniture. I was sleeping on this mattress on the floor. I used a computer that someone had thrown out that was like humming super loud, barely held a charge. I had to save like every minute. And I really started experimenting. This is where I came up with these healing foods and movement, because I was seeing that there were specific foods that were helping with depression. And not only were they helping me with brain fog and this depression and motivation, but I was watching as it was shifting my body. I was looking younger. I was like, whoa, my body's changing and I'm showing up in a spiritual way. I'm showing up in an energetic way. And then I really started harnessing my mindset and really shifting these stories that I had and these beliefs around who I am and what was I taught that I think I believe, but do I really believe that? And what do I choose in this life? And that's really where the main pillars came from, and truly the catapult to me being in the dream in the world that I am, because it was my mess that really helped me wake up to the true gifts that lie in me.
Yeah. And, the whole thing about depression, I really, really relate to depression because I've had severe depression. When I was 15, I recall, I actually was on Zoloft at this time. I don't know if it was 15 or 16. I can't remember, but I actually attempted suicide on Zoloft. And, I'm here, but the fact is, I know I'm very familiar with depression. And when you're in it, you can't seem to even think of how to get out of it because it's such a dark cloud. And for anybody that's experienced depression, they could really relate to this, that you think to yourself, like, how could I get out of this? Because you're so debilitated pretty much by the depression. So I'm curious, since it wasn't familiar with you at the time, how did you work yourself out of this depression? I know you talked about the 3 pillars and we'll go deeper into that, but what was like the first steps? Because 3 months to just be bedridden, that's really hard.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious how you position yourself to kind of move through it.
Yeah. And when I speak through about depression, I recognize there's so many different layers to that word and different things that people are experiencing, and to the depth of what they're experiencing, from chemicals in the body to different experiences that have been traumas from past. Obviously, my trauma was the loss of my son, which triggered it for me. So when I speak on this, I'm not discrediting whatever someone else's journey is, because I want to be very careful with that, because I feel like people that deal with depression and anxiety are like some of the biggest heroes that we have. Mm-hmm. And honestly, because I have children and my oldest is such a gifted empath and has these massive healing abilities. And I'm finding that there's almost a correlation between these people that, and I'm like seeing 111 on my computer and I'm getting chills because I sense, and this is just me sensing, that these people that deal with this, that they're so needed. They're so needed because they have so many massive gifts for the planet, and they can feel different. They feel into scenarios and they can see through things. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. But the first thing that I did personally was movement. And it's not like that's the first, that's like an aha for anyone, but the last thing you want to do is move. And it's the greatest thing you can do, whether that's dancing, which dancing has huge ability to make you heal. But here's what I can say. You're not going to feel like doing it. You're just not, because you're in the depression. You have to just do it. You have to, if you're listening to me and you're dealing with this, you just have to do it. And that's where I was at. I would literally like slowly tie my shoes. I couldn't even figure out how to get my shoes on. I just thought I have to go for a walk around the block. And just getting out in nature, moving and walking. And some of you might be shuffling. I don't even care. Shuffle, dance your way, but get out in nature and move your body every single day, whether you feel like it or not. It really will make a difference. If you can also take your shoes off and plant it on the earth's soil, that's going to help as well. We got to remember who we are and where we came from. We are not this story. We are not this body. We are connected to every beautiful element in the external of nature. So just reconnecting with that can help also with just the different electrons in the body. And then from there, I really suggest healing foods. I mean, we do know that most foods actually create an anxiety response inside the body. They create inflammation and actually can add to the depression, add to the anxiety. And so I'm ruthless around foods, and I'm just going to give you a few that I think you should do for sure. And it's a big reason why I created Cacao Bliss, because even though I can't FDA claim that Cacao Bliss helps with depression, everyone writes in about it helping with depression. And it's I mean, it's not like it's rocket science. All these superfoods combined, and cacao being that it's basically contains anandamide, the love molecule, literally can shift the brain wires and make you feel a sense of more euphoria, more a sense of love for self, love for life. So I definitely recommend raw ceremonial grade cacao with superfoods in it. If you don't want to get Cacao Bliss, you can make it yourself. I definitely recommend that. And then obviously reducing all white sugar, any canola or vegetable oil. Those things are very inflammatory for the system and actually and gluten can increase anxiety and depression inside the body. So really learning about different foods that you can make. You can still have your bread, you can still have your waffles, just making sure that you're not using gluten, not using vegetable oil, and not using white sugar. Use coconut sugar, use other ingredients, but that would be where I would start.
Yeah. And actually touching on food. So I think a lot of people, when they are depressed, of course, they go for the comfort foods. So we have to train ourselves to, I mean, this goes into the whole mindset thing, which we'll go deep into, because I think mindset is the foundation of everything. But that's the problem, is people, when they're in depression, they reach for the comfort foods. So if you want to get better, you have to make a conscious choice and go for the things that you normally wouldn't go. And I think that's where the mindset comes in. It's like, why are we doing this? What's our result? Do we want to stay in? Like, I think some people, and I know some people, they are so attached to this victim mindset. They're so attached to being like somewhat comforted in their depression. It's really weird. I see people that really get attached to that because that's what they're familiar in.
Yeah.
So how does that person train themselves to go for the superfoods opposed to that comforting food, the ice cream, or, the bread or the pasta? Like, what would you suggest?
Yeah. And I think the first step is to change the language, because we've been taught that that's comfort food. When you want to feel comfort, what are you going to go to? Comfort food. Change the language. It's not comfort food. It's high anxiety, full on discomfort, feel bloated, feel like crap, puffy eyes food. Let's just change that language first, because whoever came up with comfort food, I'm like, there's nothing comforting about it. After you eat it, you feel like crap. Yeah. So really changing up that language, because the mind is so powerful. When we put a language to something, and that goes for us. When we say I'm depressed, or I'm this, or I'm that, you become that. When you put a word to foods, to anything, it becomes that. So changing that language first, and being truthful. What are you eating? It is not comfort. It is not comfort. You've been taught that, but that doesn't mean it's true. They talk about, I don't know who came up with that word or where that came from, but we all know it. Somehow it got passed in the lineage of time. Yeah. And so just changing that up and then going, a really good warm cacao bliss hot chocolate feels comforting,
Oh,
actually.
absolutely.
A really good, healthy waffles feels really comforting. A really healthy cookie feels comforting. And really learning about these other foods and recipes and ways to make things that are actually going to be comforting for the system and taste good, because you don't want to let go of pleasure when you're going into this realm, because that's the first thing. It's like, you want pleasure. This is what most people are seeking for, is pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. And we are so good as humans to turn off this pleasure inside of ourselves. We think that to be healthy, we have to have bland chicken and broccoli. And the truth is that most of us are pleasure seeking human beings, and we've turned it off. So however much pleasure you can give yourself in a healthy realm, go for it. So that could be outside of food. Make a list of all the things that give you pleasure and do them. From all the way to scandalous to bubble baths, I don't care. And give yourself that every single day. And then when it comes to food, there are so many foods that are so good. Acai bowls, delicious smoothies, chia pudding that I had this morning that I put granola in, and all these yum, and turmeric and ginger and all these spices in. And like I said, cacao bliss hot chocolate and these healthier cookies with almond flour. There's so many other things that are very pleasurable with a cup of tea that you can start incorporating and noticing that shift in your body.
I love that you first touched on changing the language you attach to, for example, the comfort food. I don't think a lot of people share that. And reality is, like you said, how do you feel after that? Be honest with yourself. That is not, you don't feel good. You feel bloated. You feel like gassy or whatever, you don't feel better. So I know when I eat healthy, I love healthy food like no other. It makes me feel so good and it tastes good. There are so many great, and I know you share plenty of recipes that are so delicious. So it's changing our mindset and the words we attach to it. I think that's brilliant. So going into the pillars that really transitioned your life, the trajectory of your life, and also your mindset, and getting out of depression. Those three pillars, I know you've already touched on it, but why are these the three pillars that you think are like the healing of everything?
Yeah, I've never had actually anyone ask me in that way, which is brilliant. I always look at it like a table, and I feel like there was always this industry of people teaching around healing, like foods for weight loss, foods for depression, foods for this. And then they would talk about exercise in that same quadrant. But I think the biggest, and I don't think, I actually know, the biggest ally to our overall health, whether it's our mental health, our physical health, is the thoughts we think. Our thoughts direct every decision in our life. What we think, we do become. And this has been scientifically proven. And it's something that hasn't been hit on in like the fitness space. It wasn't back in the time. I think more people are catching on. And I would say it's the key to anything, to get out of that victim mentality, to create whatever relationship you want, to the finances you want, to the body that you want, the health that you want, the career that you want, is really this mental landscape and zip code. So I call healing words, healing mindset, really the fundamental leg to all of this.
Yeah, I completely agree. And actually over this weekend, I did UPW again with Tony Robbins. I don't know if you've ever done UPW or any Tony Robbins thing, but they talk about what brings us energy, and that's our cells. And a lot of people, when they're asked that question, they think food. They think, breathing, which is one of them, but it's the quality of our cells. And what are those things that provide health to our cells? Is the movement, is the live foods, is the oxygen, is our mindset. So you really truthfully have touched on literally the foundation of energy and vitality, is those pillars.
Absolutely.
It is so important. And I think a lot of people, no matter what, when you move, you feel good, especially when you're out in nature. It's impossible to be out in nature and not, unless you're really in a victim mindset and just negative, Nancy, then yeah, you won't appreciate it. But honestly, like if you're actually present and appreciate the gift of this world, it's hard to feel depressed, so going into, I'm just curious. I drink cacao. I don't have your cacao bliss, which I need,
We
but
will
I
send
drink.
you some.
Oh, you're so sweet. But I do drink a cacao elixir every single morning, and obviously it's chocolate taste, so it is super delicious. But why specifically cacao is so? I know you touched on like the love hormone, but what is it about cacao that is so powerful? Like
Yeah.
give us a little knowledge, because I know
Okay,
you know a
guys.
lot.
This is like everybody book
101.
club because I am in love with this plant. And it's not just that Danette's in love with it and a few other people. This has been a plant that's been revered from ancient civilizations, from some of the most noble civilizations like the Mayans. They revered it more than precious golds and metals. And the reason is, and I'm just going to give you two nuggets around the science behind it. It has a chemical, one being anandamide. There's only two foods in the world that contain anandamide.
Wow.
Now, anandamide, when consumed, actually releases, it's oxytocin, and it actually releases this drop down so that you actually feel just like that feeling when you're making love, or that you have this extreme joy and euphoria. That's oxytocin. So it releases that naturally when you consume it. That's mind-blowing. Wow. There's scientific proof of how when you consume this, not only do you get more clarity, not only can you drop into deeper meditations and visualizations and have downloads, what we call about downloads in the metaphysical, but the Mayans were building these massive civilizations. The Aztecs were building these massive, they were the ones with the stars and this astrology. They were consuming cacao, and this is what was helping clear their pathways, but also helps you get into this state of love. You feel this sense of love. Like, try cacao bliss in a circle with maybe your loved ones, or maybe even people you don't really love, but you want to get to know, and just watch as the conversation shifts. Just watch as the connection shifts. It has been proven scientifically. These are not just my words, and it's massively powerful. And then it also contains a chemical called theobromine, which is different than caffeine. So a lot of people think, oh, this has caffeine in it, like I can't drink it before I go to sleep. No, most people that write in that drink cacao bliss, and granted, all the different cacao plants are a little different, and ours are cultivated in Peru in the indigenous way, a ceremonial grade. So it's going to have a different frequency, but they literally are like, I sleep better. And it's because of the theobromine. Now, theobromine basically opens up all your cells so that your body floods with oxygen. And this is why I write all my books on it. Like, I'll drink it in the afternoon, and when I'm like feeling a dip, because I can write. I wrote my book on it in 6 weeks. Like, I was drinking it every day. I was giving it to my editor every day. I am so amazed at that theobromine. And they've also seen that it's like taken Alzheimer's people and completely opens that brain pathway so that they literally have memory again. So this theobromine, not only does it help with focus, but it helps with energy. So you feel this high energy like after a workout or before a workout without that crash of the caffeine. So to me, this is like one of the most miracle foods on the planet. And that's why I'm so in love with it, including all the 300 phytonutrients and all the, the benefits that it has that are way higher than like acai or blueberry. I mean, that's, wow. You don't want me to go on this forever because I'm so passionate about it.
And everybody can learn more about this. So I'm going to, of course, link it in the show notes to get your cacao bliss and also learn. I know, actually, I was scrolling through that specifically yesterday, and it's like pages and pages of, information of why this is so powerful. So it was quite interesting. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's fascinating. And so what would be the other superfoods that you feel are the most healing that we should incorporate no matter what into our diet?
Yeah. So I have some key ones that I really see that work really well across most people. One being cacao. There are a very small percentage where cacao is just too much for them, but that's really small. Most people do really, really well on cacao. Turmeric. Now, turmeric, I think, is the gold spice of all gold spice. I mean, it's like, for those of you who are new to the idea of turmeric, it's kind of like a natural ibuprofen. It is so good for your system. It helps with the immunity. It helps with inflammation in your body. It has all these other, effects on cancer and things like that. But turmeric is actually in cacao bliss, so you wouldn't have to take it. But I actually take turmeric and ginger capsules from Earth Echo. And the reason I created that product in specific was for me, because I was like most of the time we're not getting organic ginger. So ginger is the second one or the third one, and turmeric. So I take a ginger and turmeric capsule because that's going to help with inflammation. It's going to boost up my immunity and balance my hormones. When the hormones are imbalanced, you're more susceptible to depression. You're more susceptible to anxiety, obviously low libido, all these other problems, hair loss, things like that. So balancing the hormones is always my goal. And so cacao, turmeric, ginger, I actually think your fats, you need to look at your fats really carefully. It's good for brain health, body function, libido, all those things I just mentioned. Yeah. But a lot of times people are because of the industry a little nervous about fats and what ones do I really have? And the industry really knows what to play up. So then they are also promoting fats that are actually bad for you and really toxic. So I would stay away from anything that's vegetable or canola oil. Canola oil is basically vegetable oil. Yeah. Really toxic in the system. Most chips, most crackers have those oils in it. So there are brands of chips, I like my chips, that will use an avocado oil or a coconut oil. You want to have that type of oil. And then really raw avocados, raw unsalted nuts. A lot of times you're just seeing roasted nuts everywhere. When you're consuming roasted nuts, you're basically just consuming a pile of toxins because when they roast it, even though that's so yummy, it actually denatures the protein in that nut and it goes inside of your system and it's actually quite toxic. The cells have to go in overload to defend off the toxicity. So do raw nuts. So that's where I would start. Those are my biggest ones. And obviously white sugar, I don't even have that in my house. Like
that's a no-brainer. I mean, if you guys don't know that white sugar is bad. Yeah. I know like once in a while we could treat ourselves, have at dessert at Mastro's or whatever it may be. But yes, it's like one of those staples you do not have in your diet.
I have to say this because I have a feeling someone's listening right now and they're like, yeah, but come on. Like I follow these really professional fitness people that talk about balance and they look really good and they're going to Starbucks and having a little mallow bar or they're having these little like sweets every day and they call it like this comfort thing and they say that this is balance. Yeah. I want to argue this. And I'm not speaking about anyone in general because I see this in the health space quite a bit. It's not to say that if you were to be invited somewhere or you're traveling somewhere and this amazing woman made this beautiful cake and you're going to have it, that's different. But consuming white sugar every single day is actually not good balance. And you can have something sweet, just have it with coconut sugar, make it yourself. Don't go buy it from the store because I guarantee these fitness people that talk about this, they have anxiety at night. I bet they're struggling sleeping at night and they don't even equate it to that little treat that they're having every day. I'm talking not just about the body. I want people to walk around with mental clarity. I want people sleeping well. I want people making love and being connected in their body during lovemaking, and food all connects with that. So I just had to say that because I have a feeling people are seeing.
I think you talk about optimizing your health. Which I'm so keen on. It's also making a choice. Like, what do we want out of our life? Like, what is our end goal? And for me, I want to be healthy, vibrant. I want to be full of life and I want to look young. I want to that's my why. Right. So it's asking yourself those important questions, I think. And if you want to have, if you want to say cheat sometimes, that's okay. But, be mindful of, the more you steer away from these healthy habits, these superfoods, live foods, and you're consuming things that are processed, if your goal is to be healthy, have vitality and energy and look young, you're not going to necessarily achieve that. And I know sugar is one of the most aging things, actually, besides stress. I think sugar ages you.
I think, stress is probably the most, like you said, but actually sugar is more toxic than smoking. If you ever want to learn more about sugar or cure yourself from sugar, read the book Sugar Blues. You'll be like, I'm not touching white sugar. Like, I won't even let my kids, I get cringy if they're doing white sugar. But, and that's not to say, I want to change the language once again, because you mentioned cheat meal. As soon as you say cheat meal, you're assuming that you're a cheater. And what do we think of cheaters? Cheaters are bad people. Cheaters are not good people. So changing that up, it's like, it's, for me, you can call it a free meal, you can call it something different, but for me, there's no shame. Like I said, if I'm traveling somewhere and someone made this amazing cake, I'm going to probably have a piece, because I know it was made with love. And if I want to have it, sometimes I won't want to have it, but there have been times I've been in countries where the pastry, I'm like, come on, this is actually going to be really good for me than not, because it's just made with such a different energy, and I'm not going to have it every day. So I don't ever think twice about that. And you will see me eating those things when I'm out and about, on those random times I'm traveling.
Yeah. And actually, this is something I'm just going to share because I'm trying to find a new food for my dog. And this is the power of food. They say dogs, or I don't know if cats are in this, but dogs over 10 years, they are, what was it, 80 or 90%? I forgot the percent, that chance of getting cancer. And I truly believe it's because the food they eat. And one thing I was noticing, because I was looking at all these dog foods and I'm looking at all the ingredients, very commonly they're made with canola oil. And you just described that's one of the most toxic type of oils and causes inflammation. So hello, everyone. Even consider, you love your dog just like your kid, can look at their food, what they're consuming, because truly it does matter. And my dog was just diagnosed with lymphoma, and I'm just like so angry at myself for not noticing these things. So once, ignorance is not bliss. The things you're sharing, it's because you've spent, you've dedicated your life to finding the right solutions to things and how people could live this healthy, vibrant life. And I know you talk a lot about self-love. And so maybe if we could transition just a little bit into this, because I really want to touch on this. How do you cultivate self-love? How did you, going from that depressed state you were in, and losing a child is probably one of the worst things that could happen to somebody, and divorce. So how did you get out of, I don't know if you ever blamed yourself or anything of that nature, but how did you start to cultivate your self-love again?
Yeah, I did blame myself for a while, because I had received like little nudges to go to the hospital. Like something could be wrong. And I was so good at turning off my intuition, because it got me to where I was. Like I had been turning off my intuition all the time leading up to that point, where I was not even being honest about my relationship. I wasn't even being honest about what I believed in, because I wanted to fit into the mold of the world I had created, from what my family wanted from me, my community, the family I'd just created for myself. And so if I turned on I've thought about this moment a lot, because if I would have turned on my intuition then, that means I would have had to listen to a lot of things that I was shoving down, right? And a lot of it's subconscious. So, there was a time when I blamed myself, but, and I think that's what led a lot to that depression, right? And then I really started to, and it wasn't overnight. And that's the thing, is like people hear of these moments like they're like that for people. And I'm like, no, that wasn't mine.
Mm-hmm.
I was like this, like going into my valleys, going into my highs. But if I were to speak on self-love, the greatest thing that's really been working for me on love, because it is still a daily practice. It still is this thing of where, whoa, check in, like, am I really honoring myself? And what I noticed for me, there's two things. When I'm disciplined, now I think a lot of times people hear the word discipline and they think of spanking or punishment. And I want us to change that word for a little bit. When I show up to my word for myself, it increases my self-love. So what does that look like? When I say I'm going to write like 10 minutes every single morning because I have a book that I want to put out in the world. When I show up every day in that 10 minutes, that's discipline. Because trust me, there are times when you don't want to do it. I increase my self-love. I'm showing up for me and my commitment and my impeccable word to myself. If I said I'm going to work out today, I'm going to work out today. I'm going to be as honest to myself as I am to somebody else. And that isn't being impeccable. To me, that's the ultimate impeccable of the word. And that translates with time into deeper, more profound love for yourself, because you're choosing you. You're choosing your goals. You're choosing to show up even when you don't want to show up for yourself. That's the first one. And then the other one is intuition. The more I've tuned into my intuition and said yes to it versus, that's not the popular thing, or am I going to be liked for that, or that feels a little weird. That if I tune into my intuition, like at first, like I told you guys, I wasn't tuning into it. I was like turning it off. The more and more I've tuned into it and responded to it, my love for myself, it just keeps expanding, expanding. It's when I turn it off and I just disregard it and I choose somebody else's will over what I intuition is telling me, that's when the self-love gets a little wobbly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of you guys can relate to this, and maybe even you, like when you feel wobbly within yourself, like, oh, I don't know how I feel about myself right now. Like, I'm feeling like, who are my true friends? What does my lover love me? Am I beautiful? Whatever the thing is, it's usually because you haven't been showing up in the intuitions of what your next best move is, or what is the thing you choose and the thing that's showing up for you in your resonance. Do you need that soul day? Do you need to write? Do you need to exercise? Do you need time away from certain people, and honoring it? And then that's how the love just keeps increasing.
So beautiful. I think that is so important. I think the number one thing that also helps our confidence is staying disciplined to what we tell ourselves we're going to do. That is the number one way to build confidence too, and completing things. So both of those are great. So I'm curious, what do you do specifically to get you more in tune with your intuition, your heart, your authentic self? What are your practices? Because I know you have
Good
a specific
question.
one.
Guarantee everybody's like, well, that's great, but how do I know what's intuition or versus just something else?
True.
First, take this little sucker and the computer sucker and turn it off. Nothing zaps intuition more than social media. Nothing zaps intuition more than you answering every text message that comes your way, and every email that comes your way, and every Slack that comes your way. The world is noisier than it's ever been. And it's literally, I believe the world is going to be ruled by those who have followed their intuition versus those who just got swept into the agenda and the media agenda, whether that's social media, national media. Turn it off. Turn off the news, turn off your social media, and turn off your email. And I'm not saying always, I'm just saying you need to have a ritual and time where you're tuning into you. So I do soul writing every morning. This has changed everything for me. And that is where I dedicate time when the sun is coming up, a lot of times before the sun, just depending on when the family's waking up, because this is my time. No one gets to ask about cereal. No one gets to ask about lunch or what's the plan or blah, blah, blah. This is my time for my own intuition. That means back in the day when my kids were younger, because they can smell when someone wakes up. I swear they smell it. They don't hear it, they smell it. And I would get up really early because I knew I needed to be able to have that time. And that's the sacrifice I made. And it's so worth it. So it's really getting into writing and saying, what would you have me know? Communing with yourself, communing with a higher power, having that sacred time before you turn on your phone, before you turn on any other buddy's agenda. And then the second thing would be to get out in nature every single day. This is a non-negotiable for me. And not getting out in nature and scrolling or listening to music. You could listen to music, I guess, if it draws you closer into your heart, but really noticing. When's the last time anyone's gone out and walked and just looked at the leaves blowing in the wind and really looked at and heard the sounds of the different animals and looked at the grass and really was present with nature while you're moving? That is also increases intuition. And I wrote about this in my new book coming out, because it's all about embracing abundance in all the areas of your life. And I tune into a specific section around intuition and certain specific things you can do to really harness that intuition.
Oh, I love that. Both those things are so powerful that, I don't do the journaling, which I think that, I'm going to definitely take you up on that, because it's a beautiful way to just ask ourselves these empowering questions of like, how, what do I need today? And it's just really downloading that. And actually, I remember, I think it was a week ago, I decided to, because sometimes when I'm walking out in nature, I double up my tasks. So sometimes I'll prepare for an interview or whatever it may be. So I'll be listening to things while I'm walking. And thankfully I'm in nature. I'm really enjoying it. But the other day I decided to not bring my phone. And I was just walking my dog, but I've been struggling with this one thing. wondering the direction I should go, let's say for months, hitting, keep on questioning my, like, is this the right thing to start with? This is a program that I'm going to put, online coaching program. And I didn't know, I have several that I'm trying to do. And I was going to go with this one. And I kept on thinking, like, is this the right one to start with? Finally, on that walk, I had a download that said, no, that's not the right one to start with. You should start with this, because this is where you could serve the best. And dude, I was literally fighting this for months because I wasn't like giving myself the space. Even though I don't do meditation, I didn't give myself the space to get that download, and thank God it happened. So that's the beauty, what could happen in nature. And I think there's nothing more rewarding we could give ourselves. So I love that you share that in the soul writing.
That story. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. It was something I needed.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to ask you, let's see, I just went blank sharing that, but the self-love piece. So is there something else that you feel we should do to help, like with the mindset, to help us transition our words? Is there something else you recommend that we should help do to, feed us, switching our words into the right empowering statements?
Yeah. One thing that I did, and I do it occasionally now just for maintenance mode. But back when I was still rubbing pennies together, I was making progress on my journey. I wouldn't say I was in the downfall of it. Was I really wanted to go to the next level. So I did a negativity detox. And what this is basically for 7 days. And for those of you who are like, 7 days is too long, do 3. Okay. Because I don't want you to not do it. You basically, the first day, take inventory of all the negative thoughts that you are having, anything that's negative. And you're just catching yourself. It's like one day of, whoa, like you might shock yourself, because I was super shocked at how much negativity and just around random things. And then what you're going to do on day 2 is you're going to and you're having grace for it. You're like a little curiosity, little bee on the wall. Okay. You're not like getting down on yourself. You're just staying in that curiosity, observing, whoa, okay, this is what I say to myself. This is what I say about this situation. This is what I'm saying about this and this and this. And then what you're going to do the second day is you're going to continue to observe. But then once you say something negative, like for example, maybe you say something negative about the weather. Let's just use, because people do this, like, it's such a crappy, rainy, cloudy day. Like, why do we need to say that? You're going to exchange it with 2 positives. So you're going to just say it. Give yourself grace. I just said that in my mind. I just said that out loud, whatever way you said it. And then you're going to paraphrase it with 2 positives. So you're retraining your brain to change the languaging. Okay. So you're going to do this for a full, ideally 7 days, and you would be amazed at, and I would take you guys for a bonus round at the beginning of this week. Write down an intention that you would like to see come into fruition, into your awareness, and then do this negativity challenge detox, and watch as by day 7, day 8, 9, 10, this intention starts to come into reality, because you are going to attract the frequency that you hold. And this is a statement that I got in soul writing. I don't even know if it's out there somewhere else, but I got it in soul writing. And it was, your frequency is more powerful than your strategy. And I needed that for business. I needed that for being a mom to teenagers. My frequency is everything in everything I'm creating externally.
It's true.
And so, yeah, so that's why negativity detox.
Yeah, I love this saying that we don't manifest what we want, we manifest who we are. And that's the frequency piece, is truly the only way to receive what we want in our life is we need to match that frequency. We need to be in the same vibration of what we want.
And usually what we desire is a frequency of joy, is a frequency of curiosity. It's a frequency of childlike wonder, euphoria. And a lot of us are going, well, if I manifest what I am, what am I? And it's like, just seek joy, Seek the things that light you up. And that's how you choose your frequency. I mean, you just go in that direction, and that's the curiosity direction, and watch as the world becomes this amazing wonder for you and manifesting miracle.
Yeah. And you probably touched on several of these things because we already know that movement is one of your things, being out in nature. But what else inspires you?
You know, for me, I love culture. I love, like, I don't know what's inside of me, but if I anytime, let's just say if things are high in my life or just mediocre or even low, doesn't even matter what spectrum, put me on a plane and drop me into a new culture, a new place. My frequency goes through the roof. My excitement, my joy. I love the new smells, the architecture,
Curiosity.
the people. Yes, like put me even in the indigenous tribes where I sit on the ground and I eat corn for a week. I'm like a child. I'm like so lit up. So that's my thing.
I love that. I completely agree. I feel like a child again, in so much joy when I see something new. You know, I think we should constantly, indulge in new experiences, because it's like bringing out the childness in us, because the child always sees something new, right?
Yeah, that's what my husband always says. He's like, we don't buy things. We use our money for experiences. And that's how we've lived our life. Our house is so minimalistic, and we don't do a lot of lavish external stuff. Not to say that that's wrong, but I'm like, God, I just don't care about things. I care about experiences.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the things we remember. Like we remember experiences. Absolutely. Like remember that time, and you'll put a smile on your face just by remembering it. The other thing I was going to ask you is, you are a very successful entrepreneur. Like you said, you have 3 companies, and you're a mom and you're a wife. How do you make the time? Well, I know you did talk about your morning routine, and I think morning routine, morning ritual, however you want to call it, is so essential. But how do you make the time? Like, how do you make sure that is a priority in managing all these things? And how do you manage all these things?
Yeah. It's a great question. And sometimes I feel like I'm losing my rocker. I do always have my morning routine, and I have my evening routine. Those are constants. Doesn't matter if I'm on vacation, traveling, whatnot. I have my beginning and my end that is mine. And I do think that's a structure and a base for all of it. But the second thing that I did, I had this organizational person that my husband hired, because I'm not the most organized person. Like, there's thousands of unread emails. You'll actually find 1,000 unread texts. It drives my husband's crazy. So he brought this woman in, and I didn't know I'd get this gift, because for me personally, family's first. And if I feel, even though I'm like so driven by business and it lights me up and I love talking business, if I feel that I am not showing up for my kids, it throws off my effectiveness in business. So she said, do this, because I realized, so if that's you, first find out what is your family's love language, each individual. So they have kid love languages. They're free online, 5 love languages. Find out what your husband or your partner or whoever's love language is, and that will let you structure. So what I found was that every single mine is quality time, and that's the least for me. So what does that mean? If I do a family get together, do they feel connected? Nope. And I was doing that. I was like, oh, we have family today. We have family weekend. We have this. They were not feeling filled up. So then she said, what you're going to do before you schedule anything is you're going to sit down with them and be like, when do you want one-on-one time with me? And we sit down at the calendar. That, my friends, will change everything in your relationships with those who need quality time. And if it's service, you're going to figure out, where can I serve and what can I do that week to serve them? If it's words of affirmation, when are you right? You would write in your calendar, I'm going to write a letter to XYZ on Monday morning and put it in their bag, or put it whatever. You're feeling it in on those love languages, and you let them know, like, okay, I'm scheduling this, right? And then I schedule everything else around it. So first them, then me, which I know sounds a little backwards, but I already have my morning and my evening. Okay.
Yeah.
But then
you already have those anchors.
Yeah. It's like my nature time. Right. And then it's the meetings, and then it's the creative time. And I think most people do the meetings first. Most people are scheduling around it and trying to figure out when or they'll go, the activities or get scheduled, like when I have to take my kid here or there. That it's literally just being in control and like saying everything else goes around it.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I love that. And actually I'm going to include that test in the show notes, because I do think the 5 love languages is so important to know what your partner or your family, like you said, you could even find it out about your kids. I think it's so important to know that. I'm curious. I'm going to come in here and be a little quiet when I say that. So what would you recommend for being, woman to woman, if our partner or husband or whatever is so, in the midst of business success, how do you let them know that possibly your love language is quality time? How do you let them know that's what you need in the most nicest way?
Juicy. Okay, so good news. I just created a relationship program.
Oh, nice.
Which is my first outside of the fitness nutrition. Granted, there is going to be nutrition and movement around increased libido and energy and sexual prowess inside the program. But inside this program is a formula for communicating. And it's in a way, and it shows you exactly the steps, because there's this feeling like, especially the woman, like coming to your man and being like, hey, I want to let you know what my love language is and how you can fulfill me on that. And there's also them going, am I not enough? Like the way you show up in that communication, either you get what you desire or you're kind of making them feel like they're inadequate, or you feel like you're naggy and they're just not grabbing a hold of what you're really desiring and the piece that you're actually striving for. So there is a completion conversation that can be had step by step to really harness these relationships without the walls going up and these communications of what you truly desire. So without giving that whole formula, you just can go to the relationship program. I'll give you guys that URL because there's a short window to join that program. Perfect. I don't know when you're launching this, but first off, it's like understanding what you desire first. So understanding, okay, I took the test. Mine is quality time. Well, let's just use it on you. What is your love language? Do
quality
you know?
time.
Okay, yours is quality time. And most likely, if you're not feeling fulfilled on it, that's not his, because that's how my family, I was swapped.
Right.
That's like the least for me. And they all were like looking at me like, I'm feeling unfulfilled. And I'm like, how are you not feeling fulfilled? But I'm like, oh, I wasn't giving them quality time. So first is understanding, okay, what would that look like? So you do all the homework first, okay? What does the quality time look like? What could he do that would make me feel filled up? Is it this? Is it this? And have a variety of scenarios. Okay. And then what you're going to do, and this is what me and my spouse do, is we have a ritual so that there isn't this awkward conversation at the beginning of being like, so we got to like talk about things. We have a standing meeting, relationship meeting every week, where we like check in, and it's like neutral ground. It's a check-in. But if you haven't set that up, that's all in the relationship program too. If you haven't set that up, what you're going to do initially is you're going to just be like, hey, I was wondering if I would love to give you love in the way that you receive it. So you're going to like basically let them know you want to show up better for them. And you were like, hey, I've been wondering if I'm actually showing up in the way that you can actually receive. Do you mind if we do this test? Because sometimes it can shift. And even if you've done it a year ago, I would do it again. And that makes it fun. And then I would say, hey, looks like I'm quality of time. And can I find out first from you, what can I do based off your love language that would make you have some ideas, and then jot them down. And then most likely they're going to say, well, what could I do to make you feel loved in your quality time? So you see how I'm turning it to them versus you going, I don't feel fulfilled. I'm feeling like you spent all this time at work and I'm kind of over here and I'm just not feeling filled up. I know you give me all these beautiful things and you do things I don't want to do. And I appreciate that. You just have to like really shift it, right? And let them know what you appreciate, and then also what they could do to actually have you receive it and have it seep in the cells.
I love that. That's so great. And what was I going to say to that? That's what we do is instead of, it should be every week, but we have something called like when we summit. So it's this holding this space to talk and actually like being able to hear what your partner is feeling. And you talk about different subjects, but of course, you touch on relationship, because when you throughout the week, when they're busy and you start talking about relationship, this or how you're feeling, it's not received as well. So when you create this container or this time, like you said, once a week, I think that's so important. And we have a summit this Sunday. So yeah, no, I think it's great. Yeah, I think it's so great to hold the space for that. And so going back to, because you're America's leading lifestyle expert, I know you probably get the question all the time, how do you stay motivated?
Well, motivation is not given just to a few. Motivation is created. And that's the biggest myth that a lot of people think, oh, some people just have more of that motivating gene inside of them, and I just wasn't gifted with that. And it's not true. For me, it's the foods I eat. It's honoring me. It's getting out in nature, like nature. I can't speak it enough. Your food either makes you energized or it makes you tired, bottom line. So I don't look at food as good or bad. I look at, is this going to edify me? Is this going to give me the energy of the things I want to actually accomplish? Is this going to make me feel more sexual? No? Okay, I'm not eating it. So I look at food like that because that is helpful. Moving your body obviously generates energy. So if in the morning you can jump and shake, and I know Tony talks about this, he like calls it priming, but like jumping and shaking your body when you're feeling like hollow on energy versus coffee is so much more powerful than coffee. Try cacao, things like that are the things that I've been doing.
Yeah, that's great. And if you were to share one piece of advice that you feel anybody listening right now needs right now in the space they're in, wherever they are in their time, in their life, what would that be?
The thing that's coming up, and I'm always thinking of this woman that might be driving in her car. She's like listening to this, is speak kind words to yourself. Really get in the practice every day to say loving words to yourself. They've been called I am affirmations, but I am loving, I am worthy, I am happy, I am successful, I am enough. Start speaking over yourself, anoint yourself, give yourself what you need through your words. That would be the greatest thing I could offer.
It's so beautiful. And actually you have a clothing line, or you have a few pieces that actually have some of those I am words, right?
Yeah.
I think I saw one, I think it was joggers. I don't know if you still have the joggers, but I was looking last night. I'm like, I want those, but I don't know if they're still available.
I have a travel bag.
That's so great. But yes, I'll of course put everything in the show notes, because you have so much. You have products, you have programs, you have your blog. I mean, and of course your Instagram, everything. So where's the best way, would you say, for people to find you? Where do you live most?
I live most in my programs. I pour everything into my programs. That's where you're going to get audios from me, workouts from me. I'm going to give you the link to the relationship program. I think people should do that program because it's going to help you fall in love with yourself, because you are the greatest relationship, but also enhance all the other ones, whether it's a girl relationship, guy relationship, friend, lover, whatever it is. So I'm going to give you that. That's where I live primarily. So if you want to really get to know me, sign up for a program, which you can find on DanetteMay.com as well, or on my social, which is the Danette May on both IG and Facebook, because it was taken.
And actually what I also love is you have little booklets of certain topics, like the 30-day booty challenge, or whatever. What is it called? 30-day booty camp. Booty camp. Yeah. And you have gut health. I mean, you have these little booklets that are very inexpensive, but such a wealth of knowledge for certain subjects. So I'm going to include it all. Anything you want me to share, I'll be sharing. But this has been, I could go on and on, but I want to honor your time. So thank you so much, Danette. You are an absolute gem and you have so much wisdom to share. So I want people to learn more about you. And of course, dive into your programs and all the greatness you share. And I can't wait to hear what your new book is that's coming out this year. You said it's called something. What is it?
It's called Embrace Abundance.
Beautiful. You are the perfect person to talk about that. So I can't wait. Thank you so much, Danette.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.